Hi, today's Grow Joe we're going to talk about apples. Now this is a very overladen apple tree, right? Now really if you wanted big single apples, you should really thin these out. There's already been a June drop of apples, which is loads of little apples, so I'll put it down, already fallen on the floor, all going mouldy. Yeah? Well, these apples, by the way, this is my family apple tree, so there are two varieties on one rootstock. So one is a red and the other one you can see over there is a green. Now these, I don't mind them small. These are mainly going to be used for apple juice, and that's what I do because they all ripen at once. You need a few, but you can't eat them all. So if you turn them into juice, you can either freeze it or make cider out of it, or you can bottle it. If you bottle it, it's a big job. Anyway, a few of these will have parasites on them, and you'll see a few marks on the apples where they've been had by birds. Mainly it's wasps. Wasps love apples. They will mark an apple and the apple will start to rot. If you make juice out of it, cut out the rotten part. If it's too mouldy, throw it away altogether, because they have a substance in them called portalin, which is quite toxic. But normal apples are fine. Now we're growing these apples here in the back garden. They're not done commercially or anything. They are merely apples grown on a tree. And this tree is quite a few years old. As I said before, this is two varieties grafted on one stock, which is quite possible and works quite well. And here you see the other variety, and there you see both the apple root stocks go down to one root. There would have been three on this originally, but for some reason, maybe so, let's cut one out. And there is another apple tree, another variety. This one is a little bit further advanced. You can see the size of the apples on it. They're still way too early to pick yet. All the apple is full of starch, and the starches will have not transferred into sugars yet. That happens later. And by the way, apples you always pick when they're ripe, when they come away in your hand off the tree. Pears, on the other hand, you pick unripe and ripen them in a bowl. So just be warned about that. We have some pears on a small tree around somewhere, but we'll look at that some other time. Now apples, this tree has had bad canker. Canker is like a big blister that appears on stems. Now I've cut out 99% of all the canker this year, and this is why it's fruiting a lot better this year. You must try and keep canker cut out. Anytime you see it, the branch has got to go. It weakens the branch. And here's another thing, I don't know where you can just see it, some blue string. Now what happens with these trees is when they're full of apples, they're way too heavy for the branches. And as I've not had this tree for very long, I've not really gone into a good process, and I've not cut down all the long branches. I'm a little bit greedy. If you cut out all the fruiting spurs in one year, then you might find you'll have no apples that year. So I tend to sort of work it on a 2 or 3 year basis, so I'm always able to pick some apples. And after that, then the pruning regime you should work out. You can get some good books on it. I'll take you through it if you like in the winter, but always prune apples in the winter when they're dormant. If you need to prune plums or cherries, never do it in the winter. So that's a completely different thing. You can't just chop away at any tree you like. Now if you can see up here on some of my branches, they are just too long, too many apples, and they're breaking. And they will break. Some are just hanging on. The sheer weight of the apples on this tree is unbelievable. There must be about 400 or 500 weight on them. and it's all hanging on tiny pieces of wood. Hence why you should get rid of those blisters and the canker, so you've got the strongest wood to support your apples. Anyway, I've done my best tying it all together. One more little thing I'd like to show you, if I can find it, is what happened a couple of years ago. Now you can see just in the centre of the picture is a great mark where a big branch fell off. Now really I should cut that out completely, but if you look around just underneath it, you can see it's growing back over. This is completely natural. When we cut away at a tree, we tend to make artificial cuts, but when it breaks off the tree, it tends to break in between cells, so it actually heals faster than if we start chopping the tree about. Another thing you must look out for is bad apples. Bad apples really ought to be picked off a tree. Now in about a month's time, we'll look at picking apples, and we'll look at how you get to the apples that sit right up there. We'll show you a couple of bits of kit you can make or you can buy that'll do the job for you. However, that's a look at the interim of apples this year. I can't wait for another month when we start to make some apple juice. Vince here on the Grow Joe, signing out. Goodbye.